Life Imprints podcast, legacy stories that live beyond. Turn up the volume on today's riveting story with your host, Kenny Mauck, at kennymauck.com, and leave your life imprint with your legacy story.
Welcome back. I'm Kenny Mauck, and this is a podcast, a very special one. It's regarding my friend Dave Ramsey. We're going to be taping with Dave at Dave's place tomorrow, and going to be sharing some great legacy stories. But I want to tell you one about Dave. Dave had lost a dear pet of the family, and had been with the family for a long time. And the kids were grieving about the loss of their pet. And so he called and said, "Hey, Kenny, you got anything in regards to a book on grief and loss for maybe a pet like ours?" And I said, "Sure, I can come up with something." And to my dismay, the only book I had left was a book on grief and loss, but a child had colored inside at certain parts of that book, so I had to take white out and get it fixed up. Jimmy rigged it for Dave. And I gave it to him, but what he didn't know was that was the most difficult time of our whole company. I had to lay off people. I had to actually reduce our entire administrative salaries. We all took cuts. We quit ordering materials and books. And so I really was losing about $100,000 a month during this time frame because the company owed me money, and then they ended up terminating our contract. Got it back later, but not during this time period. So losing that much money and telling my staff we can't order anything, that's the only book I could give Dave Ramsey. And of course it was very embarrassing, but I did, because I made that commitment. I'd get him something. Little did I know, but a couple of weeks later, in comes a whole boatload of those books. It's from Dave Ramsey. That helped a lot of kids deal with loss and grief, and I'll never forget that. I used his principles actually to help us get out of debt. That's the kind of guy that Dave Ramsey is. He's a dear friend. I will never forget what he did for me and what he's done for so many people across this country and helping get out of debt. So to Dave, I thank you. For those who have walked with him and got out of debt, good job. And we're so proud to be able to do something with him, with other legacy leaders this time tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Life Imprints podcast, legacy stories that live beyond. Turn up the volume on today's riveting story with your host, Kenny Mauck, at kennymauck.com, and leave your life imprint with your legacy story.